Honestly, it seems like a rite of passage at this point because if you at all fancy yourself um, a film aficionado, then you have got to have at least one viewing of one or many of the films that are considered cinematic travesties. I mean, films that are just considered so bad on such an unheard of level. They are so bad that it's like a landmark achievement in ineptitude. And unfortunately, The Last Airbender is one of those movies because I suppose I should start from the beginning because M Night Shyamalan. I don't hate M Night Shyamalan. I know I'm one of the few people who can say that with a straight face, but I don't really hate M Night Shyamalan. I just think a lot of his ideas are ill-conceived, and I think he is very misguided in wanting to write basically everything he directs nowadays. I mean, I remember earlier on in the year, or last year, I keep thinking it's 2013, but earlier on last year I reviewed After Earth, and it ended up on my worst of the year list, which I stand by. I'm not saying After Earth, I'm not going soft on After Earth or anything. After Earth is still terrible, but Last Airbender is terrible in a very different way. Because After Earth was partially a vanity project by Will Smith. M. Night Shyamalan, this is an idea for which he is mostly responsible. He chose to do an adaptation of season 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the most beloved animated cartoons in recent years, if not of all time. So, already that idea had many people shaking their heads because by the time The Last Airbender rolled around, Shyamalan's career was basically going down the toilet. I mean, it was undergoing the spin cycle and nearing the drain of the toilet. Sorry to use that very disgusting visual, but honestly, what can you say about M. Night Shyamalan? Because basically after Signs and Unbreakable, it all really started to fall apart for the guy. Because you have The Village, we have Lady in the Water, and then we have The Happening, which is so bad that it is unintentionally funny. And honestly, a lot of people I know don't find The Happening funny. I don't know why. Because The Happening, I'm not trying to be sick or anything, but The Happening, just the horrible acting, the horrible dialogue, and just the unintentionally comedic visuals of people just killing themselves in the most casual of ways. It just gets a chuckle out of me. But more on my sick sense of humor later. The Last Airbender is like I said before, an adaptation of the cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender. But here's the thing: I have actually seen the cartoon in its entirety. I've seen all 3 seasons. I basically watched them when they came out, not because I was like a die-hard fan or anything, but because I was like, okay, this is a decent action adventure show. Um, I mean this, I mean it kept me entertained for a half hour, and after it ended, I never really looked back on it. I mean, I know that kind of makes me a bit of a heretic among legions upon legions of die-hard fans of this series, but I just could never get into it. It just wasn't for me. But with that said, I do acknowledge that it is a very good cartoon because the characters are very well fleshed out. They work well off of each other. The voice acting is very good. I mean, with particular highlights coming from Mae Whitman, Dante Bosco, and Mako or Mako. I really don't I really don't want to get any hate for mispronouncing his name. So I've heard it I've heard it pronounced both ways, but people seem to want want to call him Mako, so I guess I'll just call him Mako. But yeah, this was a very good show. The animation was very good, and it was a really cool concept of this world that's basically operated by these four nations, and you have people who can manipulate the elements using the martial arts. It was a cool idea, and I'm not denying that. Even though, like I said, I can never really get as deep into it as a lot of other people. I know people who say that this is their favorite show ever. Who say that this is one of the best, not just animated shows, but TV shows they've ever seen. So right away, I think it was a very ill-conceived idea on the part of Nickelodeon and whichever others and Paramount and whoever had this and whoever else made this decision. I think it was a very ill-conceived decision to hire M. Night Shyamalan to direct because A, he had not made a good movie in years, and B, it doesn't really directing an action adventure fantasy flick is not his forte. It has never been his forte. I mean he was primarily known for suspense and horror and psychological thrillers and the occasionally supernatural thrillers. So when they hired him for the job of directing The Last Airbender, I I just sat there kind of puzzled because I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. It's not just because, like I said, it's not just because I hadn't liked any of his movies up until then, or at least not after his earlier stuff. He just seemed like the wrong guy. It just didn't really seem like his style. But with that said, there are directors who have proven that they can direct movies outside of their comfort zone. Just recently, I was rather impressed with how well Kenneth Branagh handled an action thriller movie in the form of Jack Ryan Shadow Recruits. And like I said in my review of that, Kenneth Branagh doesn't normally do that kind of movie. I mean, Kenneth Branagh is known for Shakespeare. But even giving him that chance, even giving Shyamalan the benefit of the doubt, saying, okay, let's see where he goes with this, let's see what he does with the material. I don't think it's any secret by this point that M. Night Shyamalan failed miserably at adapting the Last Airbender cartoon. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong with this movie did. But I suppose I should start with the good stuff. The good stuff. The effects, the bending effects can be alright at times. The CGI work. And that's about it. Everything else is fairly terrible because the acting, oh my god, this is some of the worst acting I've ever seen. I have seen fan films with better acting than this. I've seen fan films with completely inexperienced people performing the parts, and they perform their parts better than these actors perform their parts. The kid playing Aang, they call him Ong in the movie, but his name's Aang, let's face it. I'm not going to open up that can of worms about the pronunciations. So I'm just going to go by their cartoon names. But the kid playing Aang is just... he's probably the worst... Well, it's hard to say who's the worst of the bunch, because they're all pretty terrible, with a few exceptions. But the kid playing Aang, he is so wooden and so boring. and so lifeless that I honestly do not know why he got cast. I do not know. I don't know what was going through anyone's mind, and I'll come back to this in a second. But the girl playing Katara, who, like I said before, was Mae Whitman's character. She was one of the best characters of the original show. She was one of the most interesting. But they represent her so poorly here. The actress looks like she's always on the verge of crying. She is just so terrible. Not quite as terrible as the kid playing Aang, but still, they're both just so bad. The guy playing Sokka, the Jackson Rathbone guy, the Harpo guy from Twilight, he is just... he has no excuse. He has no excuse to star in this movie because he was already earning a lot of money with the Twilight movies. So I don't know why he showed up in this. But he can kiss his career goodbye. I mean, after Twilight and after this, I can't really see many studios willing to accept him in their movie. I really can't. I mean, there's no going back for this guy. I mean, I actually feel kind of sorry for him, but I digress. He's terrible. He's wooden. He is just so... he has no charisma. No charisma. And I understand the guy playing Sokka does not exactly have to have the charisma of someone like Christopher Reeve or Sean Connery, but whenever this guy tries to be angry or angsty or mysterious, it's like he trips and falls and keeps tripping and falling as he struggles to get back up. I obviously don't mean that literally, but still, that's honestly the best interpretation. That's honestly the best visual I can come up with. That's the best visual representation I can come up with for his complete failure to act. Everyone's failure to act, because the three main kids are just so horrible. And it's not like before, where Shyamalan directed talented actors into giving bad performances, like Bryce Dallas Howard in Lady in the Water, or Zooey Deschanel and Mark Wahlberg. I'm not what you would call a fan of Mark Wahlberg or Zooey Deschanel, but I can at least acknowledge that they're much better actresses than The Happening made them out to be. It's not like that, where Shyamalan is directing good actors into giving laughably bad performances. No. Shyamalan is directing horrible little actors into completely embarrassing themselves in front of the entire world. I'm trying to think what else to say, but what can you say? These performances are just so bad. They are so bad. They are annoying. They are completely lifeless. And the script does not help that. But in a perfect world, if you're a good enough actor, you should at least be able to put some effort into even a crappy script. You should at least be capable. These kids are not capable of giving a good performance. And if they are, this movie shows no semblance of any indication of that. So the three main kids are terrible. It has Asif Manvi as the bad guy. Asif Manvi is the bad... The funny Indian guy from The Daily Show is your main bad guy. He's supposed to be this intimidating general. He's supposed to be this intimidating, firebending general and he's played by a comedic actor like Asif Manvi. Talk about miscast. I mean, he tries to break that kind of Daily Show persona, but literally every line out of his mouth is spoken with. I don't know if this was intentional or not. Like maybe he was sort of aware of that this movie was going to be bad before it was even released. But every single line out of his mouth sounds sort of vaguely sarcastic, like he's getting ready for a joke. Except there's no punchline. I kept waiting for the punchline, and there was no punchline. So I'm just left with Asif Manvi trying to be menacing, and it just not working out for him. But at least you can tell that he's capable of more. Unlike the three main stars. At least with anyone but the three main stars, you can tell, okay, these are relatively talented actors who are just being given piss poor direction. But Sean Tube, that's probably a mispronunciation, but Yinsen from Iron Man. He shows up as Uncle Iroh, the Mako character from the cartoon, who's actually been fairly slimmed down from this movie. Honestly, he kind of looks like Bob Marley. He looks like Chong, but with Bob Marley hair. It's a little hard to explain how this guy looks, but he was okay. I mean, not good, but he was okay. I could tell that he actually had a pulse. I could actually tell when he was supposed to have an emotion. He actually had a little bit of charisma. So he was alright. Dev Patel was trying. Dev Patel plays Prince Zuko. Again, one of the most interesting characters in the show, reduced to such a bore in the movie. But he's not a bore in the same sense that the three main actors are boring. No, he's just so one-dimensionally angry. He has one note, and that is he is angry. He wants the Avatar. He wants to capture the Avatar and regain his honor. Now, the show made the wise decision of not having this character just be a straight-up one-dimensional bad guy. They actually gave him depth. They actually made him, honestly, the most engaging character on the show. They gave him an interesting backstory. They gave him a tragic backstory. And the movie tries to do this, but Dev Patel just has no idea how to channel the inner turmoil that this character is going through. And like I said, if he does, man, does it not show. And I'm laying the blame at Shyamalan's feet, because Dev Patel, as many people will know, is the guy from Slumdog Millionaire. Dev Patel can act. So why doesn't he act very well in this movie? Why does he have these strange outbursts of anger for seemingly no reason? Why does he only have one mode, and that's seething hatred? I don't know, Shyamalan. For all the crap I'm giving the actors, the script ain't helping much. This script, written by Shyamalan, is just so mind-numbingly bad. I'm saying that multiple times throughout this video, but it's true. Everything about this movie is just so bad. It just left me completely and utterly dumbfounded. Literally every line in this movie is exposition. Every one. And this actually came from the fundamental problem, which was they are trying to condense the majority of the first season of the show into, I guess, a 90-minute movie? 90 minutes to 2 hours, somewhere around there. Already ill-conceived, because already right off the bat there's the risk of the whole thing feeling cluttered, and it does. The thing feeling unfocused, and it does. Because basically what it is that you would think that Shyamalan had never written a movie script in his life. Because basically what happens is that there is just so much backstory that the characters don't actually get a chance to actually talk. They don't actually get to have realistic conversations. They don't actually get a chance to develop. They're just spewing out expositional dialogue like machines. Zero emotional investment, zero emotion coming from the actors, and completely devoid of any interest. How are we supposed to care about the story if we don't care about the characters? These characters are just cardboard cutouts without an inkling of personality. If I didn't watch the show, I would have no idea what Aang's deal is. If I didn't watch the show, I would have no idea what the personality of Sokka was. If I didn't watch the show, I would just assume Katara is just a crybaby. So on one hand, I can't really fault the actors that much. I can't really fault the actors for giving bad performances of their own accord because A, it's the direction, and B, it's the script. The script gives them absolutely nothing to work with. There is nothing substantive here. There's just nothing. I mean, these characters have no personality. They have no character. These characters have no character. All of it is just endless exposition. And a lot of the time it's exposition to characters that would logically already know what they're talking about. Because at one point, Katara and Sokka talk to their grandmother, and they ask, like the audience probably asks, what is the spirit world? Okay. You're telling me that these kids who are in their late teens, mid to late teens, know nothing about their own religious culture? They know nothing about the spirit world, even though they have grown up in a world that worships the spirit world. So the grandmother exposits to the kids, and then at one point the Uncle Iroh says to Zuko, "Why can't we just settle down? Why can't you just give up on the Avatar? Why can't you just settle down and be happy?" And Zuko proceeds to exposit his backstory to his uncle, who would logically already know his backstory. In fact, we know for a fact that he already knows Zuko's backstory because we see in a flashback him witnessing Zuko's backstory, him witnessing how Zuko got his burn scar. So in addition to the endless wall of exposition, a lot of said exposition makes no sense the way they just blurt it out. They just blurt it out without any understanding as to why we have exposition in the first place, which is to understand what is going on so that we can we can go along with the characters. But there are no characters. These are just vehicles so that other vehicles can explain the story, can explain what's going on with this nation, can explain what the Fire Nation is after, can explain what Aang has to do, can explain what Aang's duties are to the Avatar, can explain Zuko's backstory for the 5th time. Zuko knocks Katara out at one point, and they don't go too far with this, but he's like, "I'm not allowed to go home without him." she can't hear him, A, and B, we already know this. So I don't know what you were trying to get at with that line, but oh my god, the script is just so mind-numbingly bad. And not only that, the story itself is just a mess. It is just a mess. Because like I said, they're trying to cram the entire first season of the show into a relatively average length movie. So there are multiple, basically like little sketches, because the characters go to one place and they resolve a little mini conflict, and they go to the next place and resolve another little 5-minute conflict. It's like little mini episodes, most of which do not have any impact on the climax or the characters in any way, because probably the most blatantly terrible scene in the movie is when the heroes get captured by the Fire Nation, and they're put in this rock quarry with a bunch of earthbenders who are also being held prisoner in the rock quarry. Now, for those who don't know, or for those who cannot gather by the name, earthbenders can manipulate the earth. They can manipulate rocks. So the Fire Nation, in probably the most intelligent move that they could possibly make, imprison the earthbenders in a rock quarry without any restraints. They just go like, here, get in here, and we're shutting the gates behind you, and you basically have free roam of this, what looks like, it's about the size of a football field, this rock quarry. You basically have free roam. There are tents set up, and the earthbenders are not doing anything. They are not taking advantage of the Fire Nation's stupidity. The earthbenders are just kind of sitting there, twiddling their thumbs, and then Aang just points out this obvious plot hole. It's supposed to be this very inspirational speech, but really, it's just this horrible little actor pointing out a gaping plot hole in the movie. And once that happens, they engage in a fight scene. The earthbenders are freed, and the heroes are like, "Hooray! We should continue on to the North Pole, because that's where the script says we have to go next." And the earthbenders are like, "Okay, bye." And we never really hear anything from the earthbenders again. They're completely gone. We never see or hear from the earthbenders again. The earthbenders don't show up at the final battle. That would have actually been a nice way to tie that in. Is if and here's the problem. Shyamalan does not deviate at all from the first season of Avatar. What he should have done to tie it together is have the earthbenders, all the earthbenders that they've supposedly freed, because they say like, "Oh, let's free all the earth villages along the way." So that what should have happened is the earthbenders should have shown up at the North Pole as basically reinforcements for the overwhelmed waterbenders. It would have been like the Rohirrim in Lord of the Rings, the Rohirrim reinforcements, like Battle of Helm's Deep, when Gandalf and Éomer show up with the cavalry. That would have actually been a nice way to tie that together. But did they do that? No. They just completely dropped that plot point out of the movie. And the final thing I want to touch upon is the direction. I picked on Shyamalan a lot in this video. I realize that. But really, I cannot imagine any director in his right mind, A, hiring these horrible actors, and B, saying, "Cut, that was a good take," after every take. How can he possibly classify this as good acting? How can he possibly let these scenes go? How can he possibly say, "That is the performance that I want out of you, kid who's playing Aang"? that is exactly the performance I'm looking for. That is exactly the type of Oscar-winning material that we need for this epic adventure. That is exactly what I need to destroy such an inspired piece of source material. So I don't know what Shyamalan was smoking. I don't know if he was on some kind of medication that dulled his senses, but I cannot. I could direct these actors better. I I do not use that lightly. I do not use the phrase, "Oh, I can do this better," or "I'm better than this." I do not do that lightly. I do not, because a lot of the time, I really can't. Filmmaking is hard. In fact, a lot of things in life are hard. A lot of things on screen are hard. But the thing is, when it reaches the point where I very truthfully, I honestly believe this. When it reaches the point where someone says, "I could have done this better," then you really need to either get your act together or just stop making movies. Get another job. Because really, Shyamalan has not made a good movie in over a decade. He has no one to tell him no, seemingly. I mean, the action scenes in this movie are just so boring. They lack any sense of urgency. They lack any excitement, because what they do is that they pan the camera around the action, but the thing is, they pan the camera very slowly, and half the time the characters are doing things in slow motion. So not only are there no cuts in a lot of the action scenes, but in panning the camera around and showing the characters in slow motion as they're fighting all these guys, and in absolutely refusing to cut, and in absolutely refusing to vary your shots, you are showing all the holes in your choreography. You are showing all of the extras in the background who are just kind of standing there. There's one scene where Aang and Zuko are fighting all these Fire Nation soldiers in this fortress, and no joke, it just Aang and Zuko are back to back fighting this whole army of guys single-handedly. But the thing is, the guys are only attacking one at a time. Just pile up on them. This does not require a master strategist. Just all gang up on them. Just jump them, and you will win. It's 100-2. Okay? And these characters have exhibited no capabilities of trumping large numbers of guys. They have only handled one guy at a time thus far, and not even all that well. So when I see all these guys just kind of standing there waiting for their turn to come, and waiting for the director to shout, "Okay, you come and let Aang hit you," I'm just baffled by the ineptitude in terms of these action scenes, just in how they're shot and how they're choreographed. Everything about them just reeks of just amateur filmmaking, and that's really what sums up this entire movie. This movie does not feel like something that an Oscar-winning director puts out. This movie does not even feel like something that's... This does not even feel like something that a 5-time director has put out. And I know Shyamalan has directed more than 5 movies, but I'm just kind of trying to make a point that this honestly seems like a first-time directorial effort, and a very bad one at that. This honestly seems like some amateur they pulled off the street and said, "You are directing this big budget action movie. Go, go, go." There is absolutely no flourish to the writing. There's no charm. There is no character. There are no characters. The acting is terrible with a few exceptions. The directing is just laughably inept. It's just an all-around terrible movie, and it deserves every single bit of flack that it gets. It just deserves every single negative comment that it gets. It deserves every single negative review. There's really no benefit to watching it. it there is just there is just no there's no reason to watch this and not the cartoon. And again, this is coming from someone who was never really that crazy about the cartoon. Watch the cartoon instead of this movie. If you are even thinking about watching this movie, whether it be out of some kind of morbid curiosity because like, oh, I've heard this movie is really bad. I want to see what they're talking about. I want to see if they're right. No, just forget about it. Forget about it. There are movies that you can watch and enjoy because they are so bad. In my opinion, this is not one of them. This is just an incredibly boring experience where there's just not a single thing to latch onto. There's barely anything to like in this movie. It's just it's a cinematic travesty in every meaning of the term. It really is on the level of something like Battlefield Earth or Batman and Robin. It's just so bad. Well, that's all I got for Last Airbender. I don't really think I broke any new ground by saying this. Like, Last Airbender sucks. Oh my god, such a revolutionary phrase. I've never heard anyone say that before. Everyone knows this movie sucks. Everyone has seen or heard the terrible reputation this movie has just for being abominably bad. And for once in a while, that horrible reputation is very well deserved.